How you guys doing today?
Good.
All right. We're going to read from a book called The Junkyard Wonders by Patricia Polacco. What's the name of this book?
The Junkyard Wonders.
Who is it by?
Patricia Polacco.
Awesome. And before we get started, I want you guys to understand a couple of things, okay? First of all, you need to raise your hand if you have something to say. Wait for me to call on you, okay? Second thing is, when I ask you to turn and talk to your neighbor, I want you to really talk to your neighbor, but that's the only time I want you to turn and talk to somebody. I don't want you to turn and whisper things to your neighbor as I'm reading to you, because if you do that, they won't be hearing the story, they'll be hearing you. And if I'm giving you directions or teaching you something and you're turning and talk to your neighbor, they're going to be listening to you instead of listening to me. All right? So, two simple things. Raise your hand. Let everybody show me how that works. There you go. Okay, you're going to raise your hand if you got something to say, and you have to wait for me to call on you, and then don't talk to your neighbor unless I tell you to. But when it's time to talk to your neighbor, really talk to him. All right, I'm going to pair you guys up to get started here. You two guys are going to be partners. Two right there, two right here. Okay, two back there. Okay, right here, Gage. Right here, you two guys. Okay, behind you. Okay, and then you three are going to be a team back there. You're all going to talk to each other, those three in the back, okay, because we have an odd number of people. All right, by looking at the cover of this book, what do you think it possibly could be about with the name The Junkyard Wonders? Look at the photograph on the front. And let's go ahead and take a look at the back of the book too. What do you think this book could possibly be about? I want you to turn and talk to your neighbor about that. Wait, before you start, every time I tell you to turn and talk to your neighbor, I'm going to say go when I give you that direction. Okay, you're not going to just turn and talk to him when you feel like talking to him. Wait for me to say go. And I'm going to say class. Do you guys know the class yes thing? Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to say class, and you're going to say yes, and you're going to stop talking to your neighbor, and you get ready to share with me not only what you told your neighbor, but also what your neighbor told you. I might ask you to tell me, what did your neighbor just tell you about that, the answer to my question. So the question is, again, what do you think this book is going to be about? Just by looking at the cover of the book and the title. Ready? Go. Class?
Yes.
Thank you. Raise your hand if you did most of the talking when I told you to talk to your neighbor. Raise your hand if you did most of the talking. Okay, thank you. Now what I'd like you to do is continue talking with your neighbor, but I want you to do most of the listening if you did most of the talking that time. Let your partner share their ideas too. Ready? Go. Class?
Yes.
All right, nice and loud now so that they can hear you out there in TV land. Raise your hand and give me something that you and your partner talked about that you think this book is going to be about, okay? If you say what your neighbor said that, is going to be about, I want you to use their name. I want you to say something like, Susie said, and then tell us what that person said, rather than just giving the idea as if it's your own, okay? We're going to start back here in the back. Tell me your name again. Brandon. Okay, Brandon, go ahead.
My partner Gilberto, he said that they're probably poor, so she goes to the junkyard to go get stuff and bring it back to our family, and probably later on they will get richer.
Thank you. Raise your hand if you came up with a similar idea between you and your partner. Anybody come up with something similar to that? Okay. Brandon, I want you to call on the next kid that's going to share. And by the way, I love how you shared not what you said, but what your neighbor said too. Okay, let's give him a quick hand here, everybody. Good job. Okay, go Brandon.
Kaya.
Emily said that it was probably about people, like a girl who planted a garden and her dad drove an airplane over it.
Anybody comes up with something similar to that? Not too many kids, huh? That was an interesting idea. That's called a novel idea because it's original and not too many other people came up with it. It's very novel. All right. And you shared what your neighbor came up with too. Let's give Kaya a hand. Good job, Kaya. Okay, thank you. Kaya, call on the next person. Say their name.
Dylan.
My partner Nathan said that they go to the junkyard and they get stuff.
How many people think that they're going to go to a junkyard? Raise your hand. Okay, thank you. And what gave you the clue that you think they're going to go to a junkyard? There might be a couple of different things that gave you that clue. What's your name again?
Daniel.
Daniel, what gave you that clue by looking at the cover?
The title.
Title. How many people think the title gives them the clue? Okay, thank you. Is there something else that gives you a clue? Call on somebody else, Daniel.
Brendan.
Try to call on somebody different. Let's get a different person involved here.
The picture on the back of the book.
Anybody agree with that answer? Raise your hand if you think the picture on the back gives you a clue that they might go to a junkyard. You need to make sure you raise your hand. I didn't call on you yet, okay? Raise your hand if you think the back, okay? Why do the rest of you think that this does not give you a clue that they go to a junkyard? Why didn't you raise your hand on that? Gage?
Because they could have bought the plane at a store instead of at the junkyard. So nobody would know if the back was a clue for the junkyard.
Thank you. Anybody else have an idea that they'd like to share? Gilberto.
They have different clothes in the front cover.
Okay. And tell me your name again.
Dylan.
Dylan, that's right, okay.
They must have gotten the plane from the junkyard and made it fancier so they can use it as a toy.
So you think that this does give you a clue that they went to a junkyard? Okay. It's a hard question. Think about that. Does this give you a clue that they went to a junkyard or not?
Oh, yeah.
Let's show with our thumbs how we feel. Yes, I think this gives me a clue that they went to a junkyard. No, I don't think it gives me a clue that they went to a junkyard.
Well, you don't know.
So some of you changed your minds because I see a lot of thumbs up on that. Gage, you have your thumb down. I think you're like the only kid in the class that has your thumb down. What are you thinking? Oh, you changed your mind? Now, if you're the only person with an answer, does that mean you're wrong?
Yeah, probably.
Who agrees with that? Raise your hand if you think that you're the only person with an answer, that means you're wrong. Who thinks that you could be the only person that has a good answer if you're the only person with that answer? You could be the only person with a good answer. Who thinks that that's true? Okay? I think it's true, isn't it? I mean, sometimes there's like one kid that gets something and the rest of the kids that don't get it.
I know.
So stick to your guns, Gage. If you think that this picture does not give us a clue about a junkyard, and that's really what you think, then tell us why. Don't just give in to peer pressure and say, oh, I'm the only one, so I must be wrong. Okay? Why do you think this is not a clue about the junkyard?
Because they could have got the plane at the store. Like they could have bought.
Like you said before, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you change anybody's mind? Emily, what are you thinking?
I think that is a clue because if you look at the plane, it's all turned up and or all broken and all taped up.
What do you think, Gage?
Yeah, kind of.
Did she change your mind? Really? Okay, so now you're with the majority? So now it's unanimous. Everybody say unanimous.
Unanimous.
Unanimous means, it's easy for me to say. Unanimous means that everybody agrees on something, right? So we all agree that this is kind of a hint. It's taped up. Yeah, they're pretty excited about it.
The front is
right? Do you see the plane? There's a plane up here too, and it's called the Junkyard Wonders. Let's get into the book. Enough talking about the book. This is a great book by Patricia Polacco. It was the end of summer. The katydids, is that how you say that? Katydids were still buzzing when I finally summoned up the courage to ask my dad if I could stay with him and Grandma for the school year instead of going back to California to be with Mom, like always. Stay in California instead of going back to be with Mom. You can infer something from that. Infer means you can figure something out that it doesn't tell you. Do you know about her parents? Do you know something about her parents from reading that? Talk to your neighbor, go. All right, let's share. Ricky, what can you infer from that?
That she might stay in different places, like her mom and dad are like breaking up.
Thank you. Anybody come up with a similar idea? Anybody want to add to Ricky's idea or disagree with it or have another comment having to do with that? Ricky, call on somebody, please.
Nathan?
I think the parents are divorced and she's tired of being with her mom all the time and she wants to be with her dad.
Anybody come up with a similar idea? Anybody use the D word when they talk to their neighbor right now? What's the D word, everybody?
Divorce.
Anybody use? Let's try that again. Did anybody use that word when they talk to their neighbor, the D word, divorced? Okay, I think you guys made a good inference if you inferred that. Your mother would miss you, Tricia, but I will talk to her, Dad said. I had a reason for staying, a good reason. She had a good reason for staying in California. That's like a little introduction. The Junkyard Wonders. Now we get in. What's this page called right here? Starts with a T. It's a title page. Good. It tells the title, and it also tells you the
Author.
Good. And the author of the book is?
Patricia Polacco.
Who's read another Patricia Polacco book? Raise your hand. You should. She's an awesome author. Here we go. Here's the picture on the first page. Stick that in your memory. My heart sang as I walked to school with all of the kids on my group. You're in Mrs. Peterson's class, they said. Upstairs, room 206. What do you think's going on so far in this book? There's something kind of interesting. You might have some questions in your mind. You might be inferring what's going on. What's happening? Talk to your neighbor. Go. Class?
Yes.
Raise your hand if you did most of the talking. Raise your hand if it was about 50-50, about half talking between the two of you. Okay, good. I'm seeing a lot of kids are sharing the time. Now, what I might do is, if I notice that a lot of kids are talking, doing more of the talking, I might yell out the word switch. Have you guys ever done that before?
Yeah.
Okay, so I yell switch. What do you say?
Switch.
Switch right back, and then whoever was talking stops talking and the other person talks. We're not even going to talk about that anymore. We're just going to move on. Here we go. Here's the next picture. Room 206. I found it. I'm in the classroom, a gawky boy I'd never seen before. Suddenly, everyone snapped to attention. Our teacher was standing in the doorway, short and stout. She seemed a little scary, brusque. But her eyes were friendly. I was sure of that. Now, they use a couple of words in here that are kind of tricky. I don't even know what this one word means, brusque. B-R-U-S-Q-U-E. Kind of gives me a hint, though, what the word means. First of all, it says that she was short and stout, and then it says she seemed a little scary, brusque. So what does brusque probably mean, everybody? Scary, right? Okay, I've never heard that word before. B-R-U-S-Q. I just learned a new word. That's awesome, right? Now, did you learn a new word? She's short and stout. Talk to your neighbor. What do you think stout means? Okay, I forgot your name.
Angelina.
That's right, Angelina. Angelina, what do you think stout means?
That maybe she's small. She's not that very tall.
Okay, some people are saying in between. Maybe you kind of agree, kind of. We got some thumbs down. We had a couple of thumbs up right there that agree. Okay, calling somebody else who would like to share their idea. Try to pick somebody new. Okay, good. Shelby, yes.
It might mean she's...
Real loud, Shelby. We're not going to hear that at all.
It might mean she's fat.
Thumbs? Okay, call on one more person. Loud.
I think it means that, like, some people, like, they're nervous and they shake sometimes, and she doesn't shake that much. And
Okay, the correct answer, Shelby got it. She's a little plump, a little overweight, a little round, okay? So the teacher, and here's kind of a clue when you look at the picture. Doesn't exactly look like my build. I wish I was a little more stout. Okay, here we go. She walked up to the podium. That's a place that you speak from in the front where you set your papers. She walked to the podium at the front of the room and slammed an enormous... It is risking without fear of failure. It is perception without touch. It is understanding without research. It is certainty without proof. It is ability without practice. It is invention without limitations. It is imagination without boundaries. It is creativity without constraints. It is extraordinary intelligence. How many of you had a hard time understanding all that stuff? That was pretty tricky, huh?
No.
Now, I don't think that we're supposed to understand all that stuff. I think we're supposed to read it and just go, whoa, what in the world is all that, right? Now, the next part I think you're supposed to understand, though. Then she took a deep breath and slammed the book shut so hard it sounded like a gunshot. Bam! Right? Welcome to the junkyard. I am your teacher, Mrs. Peterson. She started walking around the room looking at each of us. I want you all to write the definition on the blackboard. Post it on your mirrors. Look at it every day. Memorize it. The definition describes every one of you. What is going on in this book? Are you getting it? Talk to your neighbor about what you're thinking about this book. Go. Switch. Oh, well, we didn't do that right. When I say switch, you guys got to yell switch out, everybody, right away, and then switch to the other person. Let's try it again. Ready? Switch. Switch. Bam. Class, class, class.
Yes.
My voice just cracked. Maybe I'm going through puberty or something. Might be changing my voice. Oh, here. Here's the next page. At recess that day, I couldn't wait to ask Tom, why is our class called the
Junkyard.
Because we are. Didn't you notice? All of us are different. You know, odd. Like stuff in a junkyard. He turned toward the playground. See that super tall kid over there? That's Jody Beach. He's got some disease that makes him grow too
Tall.
Yes, too tall, too fast. Do you see him? Big giant kid right there?
The green shirt?
Yeah. Yeah, see, he's got a green shirt right there.
Whoa.
Be careful, somebody just shouted out. Raise your hand if you have something to say. Oh, I lost my place now, I gotta find it. He's my bodyguard. No one picks on me when he's around. He smiled. Over there, that kid? That's Gibby McDonald. He has Tourette's. There's Stuart Bean. He has diabetes. Me? Well, I have trouble seeing. They call me Sissy Boy because even so, I love ballet. It's my life. I take ballet too. At least I did in California. Do you know who just talked right there?
Yeah.
Okay. I knew there was something about you I liked, Tom said. I felt I had found a soulmate in Tom, and since he thought Jody was nifty, so did I. But it only helped a little. It only helped a little. What? What's wrong? Helped a little with what? Talk to your neighbor. What did it help with?
Help her feel welcome. Why would she be in
Class.
Yes.
Tell me your name again.
Jade.
Jade. Okay, really loud, Jade. Tell us what you or your neighbor came up with. What is this helping with?
Helping her feel welcome.
Thank you. Can you call in one other person for me?
Hiya.
That she's like not the only one who's special.
Thank you. Let's keep going. Okay, everybody see that?
Yeah.
Sure? Okay. When I got home that night, I told Dad and Grandma about my day. I tried to be brave and not let them know how sad I really was. But just as Dad was tucking me in at bedtime, I finally burst into
Tears.
Oh, Daddy, I've been put in a special class again. It's called the
Junkyard.
Junkyard? What junkyard? My dad asked. That's what everybody calls our
Class.
Let me read that again. I didn't tell him. Who's him, everybody?
The dad.
Good. When I tried to sit with Kay and her friends, remember Kay was her friend, right?
Yeah.
When I tried to sit with Kay and her friends at lunch, she said the junkyard kids couldn't sit at the table. How does that make you feel? Talk to your neighbor about this right now. What does it make you think?
It makes you not feel welcome.
Switch.
Kind of ironic.
Switch. Switch.
Oh, we almost had it that time. Everybody's got to yell switch right when I yell switch. Ready? Switch.
Switch.
There you go. Keep going. Class.
Yes.
Thank you. Tell me your name again.
Brian.
Brian, that's right. Okay. Brian, can you share out some stuff about this? Your feelings about it?
My neighbor G said that her friends might be saying that if she hangs out with the junkyard, the other friends might not be her friend anymore.
Thank you. Who else has something to say about this? I bet you all do. This is something that really gets, hits you in the heart, doesn't it? Tell me your name again.
Coral.
No, I'm sorry.
Coral.
Coral. Okay, Coral, go ahead.
I think that whenever Kay was her friend, she didn't know that Kay didn't know that the other girl was in the junkyard class, and it made her sad whenever she tried to sit at the lunch table with her, because then she wasn't her friend because she was in the junkyard class.
Is this a good thing?
No.
How many of you have ever experienced something like this where you felt like other kids were kind of keeping you out? You were on the outside looking in, and you weren't good enough for them, or you weren't cool enough for them, or... Okay, thank you. Most of you have experienced that before, right? You can relate to this book. Look at how sad she is. Now, I don't want to ask you this question. I'm going to ask you, I don't want you to raise your hand, but some of you have probably been on the other side. You have been one of the kids that keep other people out. We don't sit with you. You're not welcome here. And maybe you can learn from this that this is what it does to the kids, right here, when we do mean things to other students, right? Let's keep reading right here. Emily, make sure you raise your hand and get called on. Yes, go ahead.
The switch thing doesn't work with us because we have 3 people and we don't.
Right, so with 3 people, is when I say switch, the person that's talking stops talking and one of the other 2 people starts talking. Probably whoever's been doing the least amount of talking.
Yeah, but then only 2 of us get to talk.
Well, the other person doesn't have to talk the whole time. But thank you for bringing that up. Just what I'm trying to do is just make sure that we don't have the same person doing all the talking. Okay. The next day, Mrs. Peterson arrived in class with a basket full of small glass bottles. Today, she said, we are going to determine your tribes. She gave us each a vial. Tip some of the liquid on your wrist. Smell? Some of you smell means they spread out and went different, okay? I found a girl who smelled like?
Vanilla.
Looks like you're in my tribe, I chirped. She just smiled but didn't answer me. Gibby came over with Tom. Vanilla, he announced. My bodyguard Jody is too. So Tom, Gibby, Jody, and I were a tribe. I asked the shy girl her name. She wrote it down on a piece of?
Paper.
Ravan Sauls. Tom told me later that she hadn't spoken as long as he'd known her. Wow. What's going on? What's going on? Talk to your neighbor. What's going on with this girl, do you think? Okay, we're going to keep going. Oh, you know what? Before we move on, we've read quite a bit of this book now. I'd like you with your neighbor to predict, now that you know some of the plot of the book and the characters, you're getting to know the characters a little bit, right? What do you think is going to happen in this book? How's this book going to go? Okay, talk to your neighbor. Go.